How do you say goodbye? We all do it. We all have to do it. Saying goodbye is a part of living. It seems to me that this is one of the most difficult things, if not the most difficult, that we have to do in this life. I have said goodbye to my parents. I have said goodbye to the mother of my children. I have said goodbye to close friends and to beloved pets. As one writer has said, it's like losing a piece of your own heart. The call came last Monday. Elizabeth Allen, wife of our former diocesan Bishop Frank Allen, wanted me to know that the end was near, that Frank was in the final days of hospice care. Frank Allen and I met the summer of our freshman year at Emory. We met during rush week. Found we had several common acquaintances, girlfriends. And we ended up both pledging the same fraternity. We ended up at the same parish, Holy Trinity in Decatur. We dated roommates at Agnes Scott. That was a fiasco. And he and Elizabeth married, and I remember standing at that altar with them. He was the best man at my wedding, and we are godparents to each other's children. When Frank was the bishop of this diocese, I was the dean of the South Atlanta Convocation. We had a great time together. We started new congregations. We developed a Christian education curriculum for the entire diocese. What impressed me more than anything else was Frank's ability to respond to problems. Not from a distance, as former bishops sometimes did, but getting a telephone call at 5 o'clock in the morning saying, "Meet me at St. George's in Griffin at 6. That's an indication of his responsiveness. This past few weeks I've been going through an old file cabinet. I came across a folder of papers that he had developed during his daily study time, which was usually sometime between 10 and midnight and 4 and 6 in the morning. Remarkable. That remarkable ability to be both an administrator, to be a bishop with oversight of an entire diocese, and to be a truly good friend and human being. So it's serendipitous that our gospel lesson for this morning, these 6 weeks after the resurrection, are all about saying goodbye. Jesus saying goodbye to his disciples, preparing them for what was inevitably to take place. He was anticipating his leaving. What he says to his disciples is, you must cling to each other, and the Father will come to you. Cling to each other, and the Father will come to you. Those are from John's Gospel. So in this process of saying goodbye, it seems to me that first and foremost, there has to be a community that support each other. A community that God has empowered to be of mutual support. Think about it. Everybody needs a community. A place to put down roots. A place of safety. A place where one learns how to be respected and to be respectful. Community is a necessity. Seminary requires that each of its graduates, before they graduate, spend at least one semester in something called clinical training. Usually it's in some hospital facility. I did mine at Hamilton County Children's Hospital in Chattanooga. I did it with malformed birth children and corrective surgery wards. On the first day, what I remember being told by the hospital chaplain says, this isn't about teaching, this isn't about preaching. Get that out of your heads. It's about loving and caring. He said, I want you to hold these children. I want you to play with them. I want you to love them. Seminary can take care of all that other stuff. And so it is, I learned something from that. And whenever I visit a mother with a newborn child, I try to leave with a date set for baptism. The second thing that I think I've learned from this is that every community has a story. Every community has a story. Recently, U.S. Today did a feature article on the growing, burgeoning business of ancestral research. People are spending millions of dollars with organizations like Ancestry.com to discover their family, discover who they are, but who they are in relation to their roots. Knowing who you are and whose you are is essential to life. A few years ago, when I became very much aware that my hands were losing their feeling and that my little fingers were being constricted, so I went to a hand specialist. Took him about 5 minutes. He says, I see you have German ancestors. Say what? He said, well, at least from Northern Europe. You have the Dupuytren's constrictor. It's part of the race from Northern Europeans. became a lot more interested in my family's origin, and yes, I'm one of those that paid $100 to go online with Ancestry.com. And I discovered I have the Crump family who came from Germany 200 years ago, the Harrisons who came from England, because it's essential to know who we are, to know whose we are in terms of our families. And both sides of that family have consistently had a story of hard work and faithfulness, and a genuine belief that the family's story is part of God's story. And they have handed that on. So that saying goodbye is turning the pages in the Holy Storybook. Life is a journey. Life is a journey. It has a beginning and it has an end. And journeying with someone who loves you and cares about you makes all the difference in that story. Jesus tells his disciples that he is leaving them. He will not leave them bereft, that he is sending a Spirit to be among them. He doesn't tell them to recall everything he said and quote it to them. He doesn't tell them to form a diocese. He doesn't tell them a lot of the things that we do. What he does say is he's leaving, but he is sending one to be, and the actual Greek reading of it is, to be beside you. In the Greek it's paraclete. Paraclete is a traveler who walks with you. We translate it Holy Spirit. One who walks along beside you, a companion, a fellow traveler. That's the one he promises to send not only as a companion and a friend, but a teacher as well. Jesus goes on to tell those disciples that they never, ever travel alone. That Paraclete, the Holy Spirit, teaches us by reminding us. Understand that. He teaches by reminding. A great deal of education is not putting into our brains something we didn't previously know. Well, that's a part of it. But a part of education is remembering what we already knew. To remember. Often when someone says, I got it. I finally got it. What they're really saying is, now I remember. Now I remember. This week I found myself remembering my friend Frank. He's my second longest living friend. Remembering the good times of our mutual love and support. Recalling the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, that walked beside both of us. saying goodbye to someone after 60 years is only done with joy in the presence of the Spirit. Frank died Friday morning. May he rest in peace and rise in glory.